Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I thought I'd experiment with 50-cent paints. I hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, please help my channel grow by giving me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of my videos, and thank you very much for watching. These are soft-bodied paints, different from the artist quality paints that you get in a tube. A little different to use, but not that difficult once you get the technique down. Here are the two paintings side by side. On the left is the artist acrylics, and on the right are the 50-cent paints that I got from Walmart. I chose the colors which were close to those that I usually paint with in oils or acrylics. The names are different, but the colors are very similar. I chose colors close to titanium white, primary yellow, raw sienna, raw umber, French ultramarine blue, sap green, and alizarin crimson. Because these are soft-bodied, I couldn't just squeeze them out onto my palette without having an enormous mess. So I didn't have anything to put them in. I decided to use some tin foil and a muffin pan, and I made my own little paint cups and squeezed all the colors out that I wanted to use. I did buy an extra couple of colors, now I think of it, a pale green and a pale blue, which I couldn't resist. I'm using a 9x12 canvas panel, and I'm going to prep it how I usually do with regular artist acrylics. I would normally use French ultramarine blue, but I'm using this dark blue. It's not quite as rich, hasn't got as much pigment in it, but it will do. It will give me a nice background. I'll also use some of the yellow and the green to give me a background that is comparable to the one I did in the first painting. I found that the paint went on very easily. I didn't have to add water or anything. It just went on straight as it comes from the bottle. Of course, I'd mixed the white with the blue, which had made it opaque. And as I put the yellow on, I see I need to do the same thing, mix some white with it to give it a little more body. The paint is very transparent, and it doesn't have the same depth or strength, I would say, as regular artist paint. There's probably a proper word for that, but I can't think what it is. But it just doesn't have the richness of regular artist paints, but I think it will do very well. As you can see in the original painting, I had a table, so I'm going to put one in here using the color similar to raw sienna, which is very transparent. I'm going to have to add something to that. Not white, because I don't want to lighten it, but I'll probably put, sorry about that, that's Chrissy, she always visits me, raw umber, and maybe some of the red, and see if that helps the tabletop. I'm going to use this powder brush to blend the background a little bit. That will make the flower itself stand out with its thick strokes. I'll use this rigger brush, also called a liner brush, to sketch in my vase and the flowers. I'll use the raw sienna color. I'm just going to do exactly the same, 3 stems of hydrangea, 1 white, 1 blue and 1 pink, and we'll see how the colours compare. Still using my liner brush, I'm going to use the white to outline the vase. I don't know why I'm starting with that. Quite often I just start with the stems. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and it doesn't really matter anyway. What makes glass look glassy is being able to see the background through it, so you don't want to cover too much of that up. I'm working this picture exactly the same way that I did with my last painting. I am putting on a base coat for the hydrangea flowers, not any petal shapes at all, just plain colour. And I've decided, I think, that the light is coming from the left, so the left hand side of the flowers will be light and the right hand side of the flowers, my right, will be shadow. This red is rather brighter than the alizarin crimson that I usually use for this, and so I've mixed in a little tan, the raw sienna colour, with the white, hoping to bring it down a little bit, but I think it's a very pretty pink anyway. I'm making the base of this white one a sort of very, very pale green. I think it will look nice once the white petals of the florets are on the top of it. I've mixed a sort of mid-tone green, and I'm using that for my leaves. I'm only putting in 3 leaves. I like to paint in odd numbers, and I'm putting in this mid-tone, and I will put my shadow and lights on top of that. I'm putting in my petal shapes all over the flower. I'm not doing individual florets at this point. I'm just getting petal shapes down on the canvas. At the moment the colours are not quite as subtle as in my first painting, but I do think they're rather pretty, and I've seen hydrangeas that are quite bright. Now I've got my petals on the flowers, I'm going to put in my florets, and my florets always have about 4. I don't know if they ever come in 5s or more, but I usually do florets with 4 petals. I think florets look good with 4 petals, but I realize that's breaking my rule of always painting in odd numbers. It's just one of those things. I find that the paint runs a little bit, so I have to squish my brush down really firmly and take off quite a bit of paint as I go along. I usually like to leave on a lot of paint, but in this case it just dribbles down the canvas if I do that, so it's not going to work that way. I do love these soft-bodied paints for painting abstracts. They work really well because you can drizzle them. You can do just about anything with them. They, like I say, do not have the depth of color, but some of them are very bright and very attractive. I work my way around the painting and keep on reinforcing, adding lights and darks, adding different colors to stems and petals, and I try and get my colors all over my painting. I think it makes it look cohesive, and I like to work on it evenly. I don't like to work on one corner, say, and then neglect the rest of the painting. I like to try and keep it evenly worked. The light on the right hand side of the vase, the reflected light, isn't as bright as the high lit side, and so I usually do that with blue paint. It's still a light, but it's not quite as bright. There'll be reflected light through the glass vase, so I'm putting some of that on the table and smoothing it in with my finger, which I quite often do. I could have used a brush there. I'm using the dark brown or raw umber colour as my shadow beneath the vase. You have to put that in to make it look like it's sitting upon the table, otherwise you get that floating above the table effect. You have to put that shadow in. After having looked at my flowers for a little while, I've decided to go in with more highlight. It makes them look rounder if you manage to get your highlight and your shadow in as well. And I find that I sometimes think I've got enough highlight on there, and then I have to go back and do it all again. So it's something I'm constantly doing, touching the shadows and the highlights where they need. To put the highlight on the glass, I pull the paint down and then across horizontally or around the glass. There is a slight curve in there, not much of one, I have to admit, but that gives the glass that lit effect. I'm putting straight white paint on the pink flower in the hopes of bringing it down a little bit, because I feel it's a bit too bright. I know we do see very brilliant hydrangeas these days. I don't know what they add to the flower, but you can add some chemical to them and it will make the flower whatever colour you please, really. But I think that pink is a little too bright, so I'm trying to tone it down a little bit. I'm adding shadow and highlight to my leaves where they would be in shadow, even on the left hand side of the painting where the light is coming from. There would be parts of the leaf that are in shadow, overshadowed by the flower itself, likely. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I like to put alizarin crimson on stems and leaves because I feel it adds a liveliness to the painting, and I just like to do that. And this red is a bit too bright and isn't having the same effect, so I've added some yellow to it to give me an orange highlight. And I feel it's not as nice as the alizarin, but I couldn't get a darker red when I was in Walmart, so maybe they have them, they just didn't have them on the day I was shopping, so we'll see. I can see there are some runs that I have to adjust, but right now I'm using a Q-tip to put in the centers of the flowers. I'm not putting in too many, just a few. I'm using my filbert brush just to pick up some of the drips that have formed. I will say I have to work harder with this paint to get the same fluffy result that I got in my last painting, but I do think I'm very pleased with this. It's not undoable for sure, and I think the painting is just as nice, maybe even a little bolder. I might like it better actually. I do think I like the glass vase better in the first painting. I'm using this large flat, 3/4 inch flat, to put a highlight on my leaves, which I've mixed with some of the yellow, the pale green, and I'm pulling the colour in from the outer edge toward the centre of the leaf. I find that is quite effective. I'm also putting some of the green in the glass because it would be reflected in the glass. I'm using some of the dark blue to strengthen up my stems. I think they need a little more of a presence because the flower heads are quite strong, and they need the stems to balance them out. Well, I think those 50-cent paints actually work quite well. I'm very pleased with this painting, and I think it looks nice and fluffy, and the colours are very brilliant, and I didn't have to work too hard to put paint down. They were very smooth, easy to use. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button to see more of my videos. It all helps the algorithm find me, and that helps my channel grow, and I appreciate that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.